Zero moral victories, but man, am I proud of these Tar Heels.
This is Tyler Hansbrough, and you're listening to Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Saturday, March 8th, 2025. Welcome into this live postcast edition of the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina hoop show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Schade. You're joining me at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I want to welcome in all our everydayers, our Locked On Tar Heels insiders, and of course, our Locked On Tar Heels Discord family. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Man. It's frustrating. It's sad. Duke wins 82-69 in the Dean Smith Center. Carolina falls to 20-12 on the season. Wraps up the ACC 13-7. Carolina looking for that second Q1 win would have been massive, but they don't get it. Carolina 37th at Ken Palm after the refresh, so the computer numbers are still there and still good, but man, we're just going to have to see what will happen. I've got ACC tournament updates for us. But despite a strong effort, it's a therapy session. That's what it is, man. We always say it's either therapy session or a party. It's therapy, man. We need it after a game like that. So what we'll do in this episode is we will look at a bunch of things, big picture, small picture. We'll take your questions, your observations, and all of that. I've already seen that there's a lot of Coach Davis hate. Shocked by that. What do you know? And so we'll get to everything. But here's where I want to start, right? Win, lose, or draw. I want to say a word of thanks to the seniors because that's what this night is all about. Yes, you want to win basketball games. Yes, you hate losing basketball games. But ultimately, all of this, athletics is about being grateful for the young men and women who play these games that we love so much. If they weren't doing it, we wouldn't be here. For the coaches that coach them and train them up, right? If they weren't there, we wouldn't do it. So I just want to start with a word of thanks to RJ Davis and to Jae'lyn Withers for his 2 years as a Tar Heel. And I know he's got at least one more game. And to Ty Claude as well for his 1 year as a Tar Heel. Man, it's just, yes, you would, there are guys we wish were part of this roster that just weren't, that Carolina was unable to get, but you're thankful for the guys that were here for their effort, their energy, the way they've invested themselves in this university and poured their hearts out for this team. So we got to say thank you. Now, here's where I want to start beyond that. I said it in the cold open. There are zero moral victories, particularly given time and situation and what Carolina, the situation the Tar Heels have put themselves in with the losses throughout the season. And that's a bummer because you would love to have looked at this and said, man, this is a loaded Duke team and Carolina snapped them, beat them. But that's not what it is. We don't know what's going to happen in the tournament next week. We don't know what's going to happen next Sunday, Selection Sunday. But I want to say props to these Heels, man. They were wildly more competitive in this game than round one. Great effort, great energy. They were tougher. They reeled Duke back in after Duke took that 15-point lead in the first half. Got it down to 1 at halftime, took a lead. I mean, all of that. Let's remember, Duke led the first game by 17 points, just 7 minutes in. They led by 32 as the max in that game. And so, clearly, the Tar Heels were massively more competitive this time around, and some of that is venue, but some of it is, I think it is validation that Carolina legitimately has been playing better lately. I think, to me, it's proof that the crowd or the narrative that says Carolina's only been winning all these games because they're playing bad teams, that narrative, no, I have not bought it, and I don't buy it. The numbers have borne that out. And yes, it's been a 6-game winning streak against inferior opponents. I've said that all week long and all throughout the winning streak, and I will continue to say it. But it's clear and obvious that the Tar Heels have been better, and this was further proof of it. I think Carolina showed the committee exactly what they needed to see against, at worst, the second best team in the nation. But unfortunately, that ain't enough because the wins just haven't been there. And so that puts Carolina now in a very precarious scenario because they weren't able to hold on to this game that they had a 7-point lead in. Carolina ultimately misses their big opportunity, and that's why no moral victories is a thing, because now you're 1-11 in quad one games. You hate it, but it's you made your bed, and now we got to lie in it. Carolina led by 7 in this game, 56-49. They did that with 15:44 to go. And then things, the wagon fell apart. The wheels came off. There's a couple things to it. I think on the surface, we look at it and say, oh my, the offense just absolutely stagnated. One-on-one, not great movement, too much individual offense. That's the exact phrase I wrote in my notes. Carolina wasn't moving the ball well. And some of that is on Carolina. Some of that is on Duke's defense. Let's not forget, as great as Duke's offense is, elite, top 1 or 2 in the nation in offensive efficiency, Duke's defense is right there too. And this is for the second time this season, Carolina plays Duke in a game where they get Malik Brown back, who is their best interior defender, despite the fact that he comes off the bench. He just is. And of course, he goes out and randomly knocks down a couple threes in this game too. What are we doing? And so it's both things. We look at it and see Carolina's offense stagnating. And yes, that was on Carolina to start doing that better and find better fluidity offensively. But part of it is Duke just shutting the water off. Like we can't not recognize that. We have to say Duke did that. That's a real thing. But Duke goes on this kill shot to take a 59-60 or 65-59 lead. That was 12-0 after that 12-0 run. Carolina had led 56-59. So just a little bit later after that was when Duke goes on this run. And you know what's interesting to me is it was that 12-0 run. It was 15-2 extended. It was 22-5 extended. Duke ends up going back up by double digits, and that was it. And that was all. Carolina couldn't do anything about it. Ended up starting to settle. But here's what I think we miss. Earlier in this game, even when Carolina was given that effort and energy, the offense even then was not great. Carolina was just hitting a lot of shots. What did look great was when they were getting out and running, forcing a bunch of turnovers. I haven't even looked at the fast break numbers. Let's see, fast break points, 7-6. So I felt like there was more than that, but it's probably just the way it felt in the process of the game. But Duke gets up, and it was almost like there was nothing Carolina could do about it because of Duke's superior size and elite athleticism. But I think we can't neglect the fact that Carolina needed to continue to find better ways to move the ball and make things happen there. So ultimately, the offense stagnated, and that was it. But man, Carolina was so competitive from the outset, and I think I was so wildly proud of that. But again, for the game, 8 assists on 25 made field goals. I had done where did my calculator go? That's a 32% assist rate. That's not going to do it. So it's not just, hey, Carolina stopped down the stretch. It's no, throughout the game, this is how things were going, right? That's just is what it is. Now, I also want to say, I thought there were some pretty bad calls in this game. And the one that really got me was Carolina is still up. Was it 56-49? I think Carolina was still up 6 or 7. Seth gets a steal and tips it into the backcourt. And Con Knippel bowls him over. And the call was incidental contact. And I was like, no. Seth had a clear path to that ball. Knippel gets in his way. That's a foul. There were others like that throughout the game. I'm trying to find when that happened. I don't know, looking at the box score. I'll have to go back and look at it and have it for Monday. But it's like stuff like that. When you're not getting that call, that hurts you. And so I thought that was a key thing in this game. But, it was really strong by the Tar Heels in what they did. So want to look more at RJ and how strong a game he had for a while, and it was just unconscious. And then Duke really forced him to be an individual player. And I thought that was part of that. Carolina's offense doesn't show the same level of fluidity they have in being balanced and doing everything they had recently, and things fall apart there. So I want to talk about that. Look at holding Cooper Flagg down, those 3 first half fouls, and much more, all coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about FanDuel. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off, or you want to bet in on a second half comeback or something, you can stay in on the action. And if you're looking for an even bigger payout, you can combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. It's great because when you win with FanDuel, you get paid instantly. The lines for the ACC tournament are going to be coming out this week. Be on the lookout for that. Obviously, we don't know Carolina's first round or first game opponent yet. We'll talk more about that coming up in just a minute. But right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. Again, that's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Okay, here we go. Let's get the box score pulled up for all of those of you watching in real time here. Good stuff. All right, RJ Davis's final home game as a Tar Heel. Still wrapping my head around that. RJ goes nuclear in the first half. Winds up with 15 points, 5 of 8 from the field, 3 of 4 from 3, and the only one he missed was that wild one he had to take right at the buzzer that would have given Carolina a halftime lead. I could not believe that. And then has that kind of not good offense step back 3 to start the second half to tie things right. And yes, tie things up, and then had another tough bucket running out in transition up against Con Knuppel was who he had to go up against for that. But after that, that was it. Never scored. Again, finishes with 20 points in this game, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 turnovers, and a steal in 34 minutes. And so for RJ, it's tough. But again, we talked about Duke's defense. That's Duke's defense shutting RJ off and saying, all right, go make somebody else beat you. The only other Tar Heel in double digits was Van Allen Lubin with 11 points. And that's where I want to go next, is talking about the balance that had defined Carolina's winning streak was not there, because it's a combination of Carolina trying to get to it and just not being forceful enough with it, and Duke also being like, no, we're not going to allow that to happen, and Carolina not having an answer for that. Because, you think about all these numbers we've looked at lately where Carolina had been shooting so effectively from 3. Carolina finishes this game 9 of 27 from 3, 33.3%. Now, that's still respectable, but it's not the over 40% that Carolina had been shooting lately. And so came back down to earth a little bit. And obviously some of that is being affected by Duke's length. I thought some of that is a couple rushed, ill-advised threes here and there and things of that nature. Now, it was still there 3-point shooting wise in terms of balance. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Tar Heels made at least 1 3. Elliot Cadeau, which very confident 3-point shot from Elliot there. He was ready to go. RJ made 4. Drake had 1. Jay Witt had 1. Seth had 1. And Ian Jackson had 1. But in terms of the offensive balance Carolina had, it was decently spread around. The only Tar Heel that played that didn't score was Ty Claude, and that's because he basically started and then came right out as part of the senior day festivities. Jay Wash had 2 points. It was that nice layup over Common Malawach. But every other Tar Heel, the other 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 that played all had at least 7 points. So you did have that balance. But Carolina, part of this run, they've been at least 1.3 points per possession in all 6 games of the run. Finished this game at 1.078 for the game. I'm curious the half by half breakdown. In the first half, much better. 1.2 points per possession. But when you average that out, you know what that's about to mean, right? Carolina goes just 0.818 in the second half. And that's just the stagnation there, right? Like you look at the half by half numbers. First half, Carolina shot 14 of 30 from the field. That's 46.7%. 41.7 from 3, and 100% from the free throw line, 9 of 9. You contrast that with the second half. Carolina goes 11 of 34 from the field. That's 32%. 4 of 15 from 3. That's 26.7%. And only took 2 free throws. So they weren't getting to the line as well and made just 1 of 2 of those. And I think those were early in the half, if I remember. It was Ian Jackson that took those. And so just second half, again, shut off. What I really, really did think that Carolina did well in this game, there's always some silver linings we want to talk about with this, was the turnovers. This seemed like it was going to be a wildly turnover-plagued game for Carolina, who had 3 in the first, couple minutes of this game. It was like, shoot, this is going to be a complete repeat of the first game where, Elliott had 5 first half turnovers. Carolina had a bunch to start the game, and that's what put it away. Okay, yeah. 3 Tar Heel turnovers in the first, basically just over 3.5 minutes into the game. And then they did not have another turnover until back-to-back turnovers. I thought they should have both been RJ's, but one was given to Van Allen and one to RJ at 11:01 and 10:26. So basically, for 9 minutes of the second half and the final 17. So Carolina went a long time there, like 17 plus 9, 26 minutes of game time without a turnover. Phenomenal stuff. And the defense for Carolina, I thought, was active, great hands, aggressive. I thought, Jay Witt was trying really hard, Drake Powell on Cooper Flagg. But Duke, man, just hitting shots. Carolina's size was not enough to go to war with them. And Duke finishes for the game 56.4% from the field. In the first half, they were 51. In the second half, they shot 60%. Not going to win many games when you can't stop the opponents like that. But again, I really appreciated Carolina's tenacity defensively and how they went with that. Now, let's talk about Cooper Flagg. Carolina did, I thought, an admirable job on him, but he just kept coming. Finished the game with 15 points. You'll take that. But what I thought Carolina did well is it took him 15 shots to get there. He was just 6 of 15 from the field, 1 of 4 from 3. But he did have 9 boards, did have 6 assists and 4 blocks in this game, 3 turnovers. And so, while he was inefficient scoring-wise, I mean, all that other stuff, man, the turnovers you'd rather not have if you're Duke. But goodness, the rebounds, assists, and blocks. This dude leads their team in all 5 major statistical categories: points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks. And it showed up in those ways. Now, I thought Carolina did a really good job. They drew a foul on him early. Drake Powell was hounding him defensively. That led to the second foul. There was the push off by Cooper. And then Jay Witt was just standing there waiting for Eon. He checked his watch about 5 times before Cooper Flagg ran into him because John Shire put him back in late second half. And so that was good. So really nice job, I thought, all around by Carolina on Cooper Flagg. But other Blue Devils contributed to that offensive balance that Carolina's had. That's what Duke was. Tyrese Proctor, 16. Con Knipple, 17 to lead the team. Sion James, 16 points for them. And just a bunch of guys coming in and scoring. And Carolina couldn't get it done. Another on the negative side, Carolina has each of the last 5 games led rebounding margin by double-digit figures. Well, it was the exact opposite in this game. Duke leads the rebounding 39-26, minus 13 for Carolina on the boards. They held their own on the offensive side. Duke had 7 offensive rebounds. Carolina had 8. They won that battle. That means, though, that Duke dominated on the defensive glass. Carolina couldn't get enough offensive rebounds because they had a whole bunch of misses. 18 defensive rebounds for Carolina, 32 for Duke. Let me look at second chance points. Pretty close, actually. Carolina did a nice job there, which you expect with the teams being pretty balanced in terms of offensive rebounding. So we will live with that there. Some other takeaways from this game. Let's see what else I had in my notes that I wanted to get to here. Okay, here's where I want to go next, and then we'll go get your comments, of which, holy smokes, there are a lot of. Obviously, we'll have more to say specifically about this game on Monday's show. But what I want to talk about right now is the ACC tournament. in my mind, worst possible scenario for the ACC tournament for Carolina. The hope was that you get another quad one opportunity against a non-Duke opponent before you face Duke. The kind of crazy thing is, with the way all this played out, had Carolina won this game, Duke would have fallen down to the 3 seed and Carolina would have been the 4, meaning they would have been on opposite sides of the bracket with Louisville as the 1, I think it was, and Clemson as the 2. So that's the other bummer about not winning this game, is you could have put yourself in you get that quad 1 win, you probably put yourself in the field at least temporarily, and you put your ACC tournament hopes in a much better position. But instead, Carolina won't get a quad 1 opportunity again unless they win 3 games to face Duke in the semifinals, win 2 games to face Duke in the semifinals on Friday night. Clemson, Louisville, and SMU are the only other quad 1 opportunities, and they're all on the other side of the bracket. With SMU's loss today, they fall to 6th, while Clemson and Louisville are the 2 and 3. And if we're being honest, with SMU's loss, they might even fall to a Q2, because they were, I believe, 45 or 46 today, and outside the top 50 on a neutral, as the tournament will be, is a quad 2. So Carolina, though, is the 5 seed. They're going to play the winner of Notre Dame and Pitt. That'll be Wednesday at 2:30. That's a nothing burger. I mean, it does nothing for your resume. You just can't lose it. If Carolina wins, Wake Forest is the 4 seed. The problem is, despite how their record looks, their computer metrics are bad. Wake right now is 72nd in the net as of Saturday. I just said it, but on a neutral floor, the opponent's got to be top 50 to be Q1. So again, worst possible scenario. Carolina doesn't get a shot at Duke, Clemson, Louisville, or SMU before having, they get a shot at Duke, hopefully, but you really wanted to be able to play, hopefully, SMU as a quad 1 opportunity in the quarterfinals. And if not them, SMU Louisville or Clemson in the semifinals. But instead, no, Wake, if you make it to the quarters, and then Duke in the semis is your first shot at a Q1. Now, it's not all said and done, because if you can win those 2 games, assuming Duke wins theirs, that's a double bye. No, they'll have to play in the quarterfinals. But assuming Duke makes it through, then you face them, and it's like, oh my gosh. But there's no guarantees Carolina will get there either. All that to say, if Carolina beats Notre Dame or Pitt, whoever comes out of that, they would play Wake Thursday at 2:30 Eastern. If you beat Wake, Carolina then would play Duke on Friday at 7 p.m. in the semifinals, which is your first quad 1 opportunity. I mean, that's why losing this game to Duke is not only bad for the bubble hopes immediately, but also because the ACC tournament bracket would have set up infinitely better for Carolina had they won this game, and that really hurts. Okay, I want to get over to your comments, because there's a whole truckload of them, and I want to see what kind of questions and thoughts and observations you guys have, and that'll be where we'll head next, all coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about Nissan, the Nissan Armada Pro 4X, the numbers are on an MVP level. With the ability to tow up to 8,500 pounds, it can quite literally carry the whole team, plus the gear, wherever you need to go. It's powered by a twin-turbo V6 engine, delivering the strength and performance to handle highways, back roads, and everything in between. And with room for up to 8 people, the Armada Pro 4X is built for big crews, big adventures, and even bigger memories. So whether you're exploring off-road trails or rolling up to the arena, the Armada Pro 4X brings power, versatility, and style wherever you go. So take your adventures to new heights with the all-new Nissan Armada Pro 4X. Learn more at nissanusa.com. Okay, let us dive on in to the chat over here and see what's going on. There's a lot of talk from a lot of different people, and so I want to pull it up about some substitution patterns in the second half. So let's look at all this and see what we got. So Carolina in the second half, RJ Davis plays 16 minutes, and a lot of the conversation is Duke goes on their run as RJ comes out. So let's see the substitution pattern there. Substitution out. RJ Davis goes out in I'm looking at most recent. That's not going to help at all. Substitution out. RJ Davis with 14-23. Yep, that's right about the time things were really stagnating for Carolina, and then he doesn't come back in until 11-27. So when RJ checked out at 14-23, let's clear out the substitutions and see. When he checked out, Carolina was still up 4. And when he checked back in, Carolina was up 1. But then Duke really goes on their run after that, because who went out when he came in? Elliott, Drake, and J-Wash. In comes RJ, Van Allen Lubin, and Jae'lyn Withers. So, I think if I'm Coach Davis, here's why I did that. I'm trying to get RJ out for a breather ahead of the under 12 timeout, which I know was a couple minutes before that, to get him a breather and then come back in. And I know there's like, man, Iron 5, what? But it's like, had Carolina gone to Iron 5, I think it was like, well, why didn't Coach Davis up, right? So there's always going to be a way to get upset about that. And I absolutely hear that, and I understand it. But I think you got to give RJ a break there. He's getting beat up. He's getting tagged. Duke's going all in on him. And Elliott, despite a couple first half turnovers, I thought, Jay Billis described him as a pest defensively in this game. Had some nice drives to the bucket. What did Elliott finish doing? Let me look at his stats for this game. Elliott Cadeau, 7 points, 3 of 9, so not very efficient there. 1 of 2 from 3, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 turnovers, a block, and 3 steals. Man, I mean, and let's just remind ourselves that. I guess we didn't really talk about it. While Carolina only ended up turning the ball over a total of 6 times, 3 in each half, they forced Duke into 14 turnovers. The problem was, what are points off turnovers? Where are you at? 16-10. Carolina needed to lead that statistical category by a bigger margin. And so that's a big part of the problem there. But I did think Elliott, we got the better version of him in this game. Just didn't get enough assists from him, as Carolina was just playing too much individual offense, man. That's where it fell apart. That's just where it fell apart, when that offense stopped going. And that's unfortunate, because that felt more like the December, January version of the offense. But again, credit to Duke's defense, because that's a massive part of that thing. Okay, let's get to some questions here from people. A lot of them. Man, a lot of it just frustration. I understand that. Yeah, that's, gosh, all we got here is frustration. Okay. Man, if I can't find anything healthy to talk about and look at here, then we're just going to have to keep going. All right. I'm sure there is, but man, it's just, it's like a morgue in the comments section. And so that's typically we find stuff in there that we want to look at and talk about, but there wasn't that right now. So we're going to go back to some other things. Okay. Van Allen Lubin, I wanted to mention him because he continues to just be really efficient and effective for Carolina. There was a couple times when I wanted him to go up and dunk some balls, where he got swatted or just couldn't get up in the lane, but finished 5 of 8 from the field, 1 of 1, had that really nice and 1, led Carolina in rebounding with 6, had a block and a steal in 29 minutes. And so really nice for Van Allen as an undersized big. I honestly, I think Van Allen has come on down the stretch. How many straight games is this for him in double figures? Is it 6, 7? Let's look here in real time. Van Allen Lubin, I'm getting to his player page of my stats that I keep. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is 6 straight games for Van Allen Lubin in double figures. Leading Carolina in rebounding. He's been coming along. And I think he's really understanding how to play with what Hubert Davis is wanting and his teammates. And so, again, he's got more eligibility. And so we'll see what happens. Obviously, the season's not done, but just looking and thinking ahead a little bit. The other thing I want to mention, the other Tar Heel player I wanted to mention is Drake Powell. Literally the only Tar Heel to finish positively in plus minus in this game. Now it was a +2. It ain't much, but still, literally every other Tar Heel was a minus in this game. Drake finishes with 7 points, 2 of 6 from the field, 1 of 4 from 3, 2 of 2 free throws, 2 rebounds, and a steal. But I thought, a lot of what doesn't show up in the stat sheet is what he was doing well, right? Like just hounding defensively all over the ball, his activity just really, really coming along. And I just become more and more hopeful that he'll stick around for another year, because if you could get Drake Powell at the 3 with Caleb Wilson at the 4, man, I think you would really have something nice there. But I don't know, man. That is where that is. All right. There was one more stat I wanted to look at and I lost it. Where did you go? Points in the paint, 40-28 for Duke. Carolina had been dominating the statistical category lately and just not able to in this game. Again, some of that is Duke's size. But what was interesting is Carolina started off really intentionally working to get switches. Like, it was clear that was the plan and that was the play, to get Kaman Malawach or Malik Brown, whoever was at the 5, switched off onto a guard, be it Elliott or RJ, and then attack that. And just as things got crazy, Carolina got away from that. They weren't able to get into the lane as much, settling for shots, or when they did get into the lane, didn't kick out or whatever it was. And Duke ends up leading points in the paint 40-28 in this thing. So ultimately, Carolina can't get it done. It's a loss. It probably means, if not the end of NCAA tournament hopes, again, especially because of how it sets up the ACC tournament bracket, then a long shot for sure. So it's Saturday night. I hope that means you're all on your knees praying ahead of church tomorrow on Sunday. All right, so we will be back with things on Monday's show. Unfortunately, also, the women lost today in the ACC tournament to NC State, as painful as that is. And now they play Duke for the ACC tournament final tomorrow. Ooh, yuck, gross. That's painful. So the women definitely in the NCAA tournament, really excited for and proud of them and their great season. But now a nice chance to rest up, get Alyssa Usby healthy, get Renaya Kelly healthy, and the rest of the Tar Heels as well. All right, guys. If you've not subscribed to the YouTube channel already for Locked On Tar Heels, man, let me encourage you to do that right now. Hit it right now while you're watching this. If you're listening to it later, thank you. We're glad you're here. Hop on YouTube, subscribe to this bad boy. If you've not joined the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, we'd love to have you there. We've got postseason play now. We're getting close to portal season, and that's when stuff goes crazy in there. Everyone's wanting to dive in. But also, one of the pledges I am making, we've got our Locked On Tar Heels insiders that you can join. Every transfer portal rumor I hear this offseason is going straight and directly into our Locked On Tar Heels to the insiders. And so that's my promise, is I'm going to dump that in there. So if you're not an insider already, now's the time to start getting in as we move into that part of the offseason. Guys, it's sometimes harder to say, but I hope we recognize that it's always true, even on a day like today where we're bummed and sad, but grateful, right? Like that, what a mixture of emotions. But I say that to say it's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. We'll talk again on Monday. But until then, peace.